In this morning's Health Watch, the dangers of diabetes. Nearly 24 million Americans have diabetes, but millions of others don't even know they have it. It is the 7th leading cause of death in this country. Dr. Mehmet Oz, host of Dr. Oz Show, joins us from Washington, where he is the featured speaker at the National Diabetes Conference. Dr. Oz, good morning.
Good morning, Harry.
How many people are we really talking about here? And potentially how many more on top of that?
Well, we estimate there are about 57 million more than the 24 million you mentioned who are pre-diabetic. So in aggregate, that means that 1 in 3 people watching this broadcast right now probably have diabetes or are pre-diabetic. And the irony is, the earlier you intervene and help folks, the better they'll do. You can actually double the survival rates, but 90% of people don't realize it. And the conference today is an effort by the government, other stakeholders, including major professional groups like the American Diabetic Association, to put this on the radar screen, Harry, because diabetes today is where breast cancer was 25 years ago. We can do better.
Yeah. How would you know if you're pre-diabetic?
Well, I've got a little clip I'm going to play you from the show. We have this little construct called the truth tube, and you'll see this woman that I have in the truth tube getting her waist size measured. And as you put her up, I'll mention, by the way, that of course we look for thirst, excess urination, and weakness, but ultimately your belly fat is what tells us if you're at high risk for being a type 2 diabetic. So, Harry, the rule of thumb for me, as you watch her getting in there, you'll see me measuring her waist size there. And the reason I do that is because that belly fat actually blocks the ability of insulin to work. So let's do the math on you, Harry, while we measure her waist. Notice, by the way, we're measuring her waistline at her belly button, which is where you have to measure it. Guys put the belt beneath their fat. You can't just look at your belt size. So, Harry, how tall are you, Harry?
I'm 6'3".
All right, so 6 times 12 inches is 72 inches, plus 3 is 75 inches.
Right.
Divide that in half. That's 37.5 inches.
Right.
If your waist size is more than half your height, so if your waist size, not your belt size, Harry, but if your waist size is more than 37.5 inches, and this is true for men, women, and kids too, which is important because kids are becoming diabetic, that means you're at increased risk for having complications from belly fat. Leading among those is diabetes.
Wow, I am on the cusp. I'm a regular exerciser, and I eat pretty good, but that's important. That's an important piece of information to know. Let's talk about some of these things, though, that you can do, anybody can do. You don't have to be running up and down the stairs of your apartment building. There are things you believe folks can do on their own to help bring them back from the brink or bring them back away from these symptoms.
So 4 basic rules, they'll work. They've been shown to work over and over again. Number 1, everyone knows breakfast is good for you if you want to lose weight, but you need to have fiber in the breakfast. Donuts don't count. So a high fiber cereal, a piece of fruit, that gets you there. Secondly, you never want to eat on an empty stomach. And the reason for that is hormonally, when you eat when you're really hungry and famished, you'll overeat, you'll overshoot. So you want to always have something about a half an hour before a meal, a handful of nuts, a piece of fruit again, something light, just to take away the edge. So when you sit down, you don't overdo it. Cut out all the white foods. It's number 3. White sugar, white flour, white pasta. In the body, these are all seen as simple carbohydrates, which of course are generally deposited as belly fat, as well as fat in other parts of the body. And finally, you got to build muscle mass, Harry. And the reason this is so important, especially for women, is when you go through menopause, your ovaries don't just stop making estrogen, they stop making testosterone. Without testosterone, you stop making muscle, you get that little pooch in your belly. So make sure you have enough muscle. It burns several times more calories than fat will.
The pooch is not just the thing in the backyard, right? All right, last but not least, if you do these things, can you really turn it around?
90%, I'll say it again, 90% of people who are pre-diabetic can reverse their symptoms dramatically and reverse the ailment itself dramatically by losing belly fat. That's why we have such a call to action today in Washington. I know that if folks recognize the ailment early enough, and if you don't know it, you got to figure it out, which we've been talking about today, you'll have the ability to double your success rate and your survival rate.
That's big time stuff. Dr. Mehmet Oz, great to see you. Thank you for your help this morning.
A lot happens early on The Early Show, weekday mornings on CBS.